Hello, I just wanted to take some moments to record my position in respect of this game of GD40 from the TCS series. So it's the German attack on the town of Ston, defended by the French here. I thought originally I spent about a week, in fact almost exactly a week, spent in preparation for this game, and I've been enjoying it immensely. And I don't mean like just clipping counters, but I mean in thinking about the plans of attack and preparing op sheets for the both sides. So I recorded earlier my thoughts of the French initial defence, and I've changed my thoughts since then, because originally I was going with I was just going to take the first scenario, which lasts I think 10 or 11 turns, and then continue on from there as the campaign if it felt good. But now I've decided just to go straight, just to bring my thinking into the whole campaign mode. So now I'm not just thinking particularly for the French in terms of like 3 hours ahead, but I've actually thought for them for the whole day of which the campaign is. And in fact, in the campaign game, there's also an option to continue into the next day. So here you can see now the French setup as it is. We have tanks and equivalent of an infantry battalion here in and around Ston. Then there's a company here. There's a company here. This is a company that's got machine gun assets. Company here, and their intention is to delay and take out what they can of the German tank force, which is here. Then there's a company here, companies with machine gun assets spread out here, and their intention is essentially just to delay the masses of Germans over here. So you can see that these are not going to hold up all of these German forces for long, but essentially what the French decision now is that they're not going to hold Ston, so all of these are going to withdraw into the woods around here. And one of the considerations being is that we know, as we historically probably wouldn't, that the German tank force is going to be withdrawn at 0800 hours. Game starts at 0400 hours, so the thought is to withdraw so that can have no effect, because we're imagining the Germans are planning to take Ston, so we'll withdraw. They will not have any effect upon us, and we're waiting for them to leave the scene, so that then obviously the Germans will have less strength, and waiting for our strength to build up with reinforcements. Just so you know, the blue blocks here are marked for German reserves, so for all of the German forces there, they have approximately a third of each force in reserve. So the German battle plan is essentially unchanged, because I've set them up. I've got, this is their initial op sheet at start, and then there's also this defensive op sheet. So this is attack, and this is hasty defense op sheet. So these are both prepared at start, so they're already implemented. So essentially the idea is the Germans will attack on Ston, and then they will move in and have defense in and around it against possible French counterattacks. Now, although the French reinforcements come in here, they're kind of like positioned like this in defense, because you can't see properly on my photocopy of that map, but on here you can see this is completely open ground. So the Germans are looking to defend from covered areas, not sit in the open ground, because there's a fair bit of off-board artillery allowed to each side in this situation, and the Germans don't really want have a defensive force sitting there taking the brunt of that. This is an attack op sheet. It's size 5, so there's actually 6 battalions or equivalents on here. There's the 1st Großdeutschland battalion here, the 2nd Großdeutschland battalion coming down the road here. Then there's the 3rd Großdeutschland battalion here. Then you've got some regimental assets here. That's the 4th battalion, as it were. Sturm Pioneer battalion here, and the 428 Panzer, but I think that's a 200 company. I can't remember what it's a battalion equivalent anyway. Element here. So they come on in force, and the Panzer battalion. You saw before they could got anywhere sort of around here within turn 1. But they're going to come along here to take cover, to use the cover of the woods against the artillery. They come in here to phase line pudding, and then their attack axis is cream here onto the objective there. I didn't actually name the objective, so we'll just have to call that Ston. I think my military symbol should be like this, as objective Ston. Okay, anyway, be that as it may, they are actually going to be joined by the 2nd GD battalion here. So their assembly point of phase line pudding is there. Their attacks, so they have this phase line here for the attack to kick off from that phase line at 540. No, sorry, 520, yes. Then phase line pair here is the Sturm Pioneers, and then their attack puree kicks off at 540, and then phase line plum here is the bulk of the GD, the 1st battalion, and their assets, including infantry guns, anti-tank guns, and some heavy artillery, 105mm. So they're on phase line plum, attack pi to start at 620. So cream is intended to destroy the tank force here. Puree is intended to pass through Ston and then take the buildings to the rear, because there's a small 2-hex village in the rear of Ston there, so we don't want any sort of interdicting attacks there. And then pi is intended to actually take Ston itself. And then the 3rd GD is just completely held in reserve, because there was if you remember, there's an initial French force here, so this is essentially holding the right flank of the attack. But if necessary, they could be sent in to join the attack if it's felt needful. The failure instructions are to move back to their phase lines, or I've forgotten to write that, but there's some rally points, separate rally points for them, which will probably be in these woods here. I've forgotten to do that, so I have to do that before we start. So that starts at 0400. Then I've just put time 0400 to 14. No, I've put 0400 to 1400. Is their hasty defence. I should perhaps put a time in for the hasty defence. It might not matter, because maybe I should just stipulate once Ston taken, because it's not prepared defence, so they won't jump into dug-in positions. So we've got sated, which is 2 battalions to hold. That's a lot of anti-tank guns and so forth, and the artillery and so forth, and the 1st battalion to remain in Ston. The Sturm Pioneers are to remain in their then position Hungary. No, yeah, Sturmpanniers go there, these woods just to the sort of northwest of Ston. Then the second division goes to full here, and the third division, which was reserved there, they will go to defend in woods up here. Now I've given them all alternate. I've given them all drop backs as well, so they can. The defense is an elastic defense, so they can move back here, here, and here, and this one to here. And then there's a couple of them have alternates as well, which can be rolled for if necessary to, an alternate drop point, fallback point. And then these are the A, B, and C are the failure instructions rallying points. So that is the German implemented ops sheets. Now they're going to depend on preparing ops sheets in situ as the situation develops. Seeing they have a ops value of 4 or command value of 4, that they can, with sort of whole battalions, that would facilitate quite well attacks and other hasty defence, perhaps even a prepared defence. If it looks like they've achieved this and the French are nowhere near, they might try for a prepared defence. So they're going to continue on the fly. But the French, it's quite a different situation. Essentially what I did for the French is quite a lot of analysis of the time and force dynamics. What I mean is what time reinforcements arrive and how that alters the distribution or the distribution of balance between the two opposing forces. For the Germans it's quite simple because essentially they only have two points of interest on the reinforcement sheet. One is that this tank force is withdrawn, as I said, at I think 8 o'clock, 800, yes. And then at 2 p.m, 1400 hours, they get 1.5 battalions of infantry and some more off-board artillery coming in from here. So they will take those on the fly. But for the French, it's a bit of a different kettle of fish. And you see, I had to sort of organise things quite a lot. Colour coding helps me to organise it because on the played sheet on the back of the game-specific rules, it's sort of quite bare. You just have times and the units coming on and the entry area. But there's also lots of optionals. So in fact, in the game, maybe I can just show you what's left. All these units, so that's two sheets there, that's French and German. All those units are optional, so I'm not going to play with them this game, but obviously I might do another time. So all of that and all of that are not coming on, which means that this list of forces, the TOE, was a bit confusing for me, so I had to outline what's actually coming on and when. So for the French, this is all they have. And I'll show you here because it's maybe a bit clearer. I photocopied it because also this is the French forces, this is the German forces, this is the German order of arrival, and this is the French. Any graphic designer would have realised you put the French order of arrival here because that relates directly to that, and the German here because then that can relate to that. So the French has to relate to that via that. It doesn't. So anyway, I photocopied this, switched them around. So because it really helps me to sort of, for this planning to get organised. So this is the at start forces, 3 battalions for the French. Then at 0600 they have another battalion, which is basically a recon group of 13 armoured cars and 4 motorcycle infantry squadrons. So that's another battalion equivalent at 0600 hours. Then at 0900 hours they get another battalion of infantry, another tank battalion, and a third of another tank battalion. So they get 2 1/3 battalions at that point. And then at 1600 hours, they get this battalion of infantry and 2/3 of that to complete that battalion of tanks. So that's how they come on. Then the Germans, there's the withdrawal here and their reinforcement of 1400, but their at-start forces, you can see, are huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 battalions, and this panzer company up here. But then they get reinforced with 1, and I call that half a battalion there, so 1.5 battalions at 2 p.m. Then I put the timeline out here. So at start, at 0400, the Germans have 5.5 battalion equivalents versus the French 3 battalion equivalents. At 0600, the French get 4 battalion equivalents. The Germans still have more. They get a withdrawal, but they still, at 0800, they still have greater strength than the French 4. But then at 0900, now later, the French go up to 6 1/3 battalions. So now they have the preponderance of strength over the Germans. That continues until 2 p.m. 1400, when the Germans get 6.5. So they just have the edge in preponderance of forces. This is assuming no losses, of course, but they're more or less equal. And then, of course, the French take a full lead at 1600 with their last 1.5 battalions until the end of the day at 2000. The next day sees some optional reinforcements, not a huge amount for each side, but some extra artillery as well. So I'll play that by ear if I can stomach another day. But you see, that helped me to see, okay, the French start out weak. They get a reasonable majority there that lasts for a long time, and then the complete majority here. So the French worked out there's going to be 5 phases to their plan, because their command prep is 7. So it's going to take ages to bring for an op sheet to enter implementation during the game. I worked out that an attack op sheet that took all forces would take 61 turns to implement. I don't think we quite have that in this one day, and that's just a chance. That's like a good chance of it implementing. If individual battalions in attack command would take 16 turns each to have a reasonable chance of succeeding. Double battalion attack ops sheets would take 28 turns. So that command rating, that I decided, okay, they're going to need to prepare everything beforehand. So I've basically got 5/6 op sheets here, and here's some more of the analysis of turns, and we decided 5 phases and 3 attacks on the Germans. So the first phase, when they're most weakest, is just a withdrawal. Then when they gain some reinforcements, they're going to start their harassing attacks. Then later on, when they have that fair preponderance of forces after the withdrawals of the French, they're going to actually start a kind of spoiling stroke debilitating attack. So it's going to be mobile attacks, again, to keep the Germans from having luxury of implementing op sheets quickly. Continue destabilizing their forces, but take out, weaken them if possible. So the harassing attack stops them from implementing op sheets. The debilitating attack will do that, or delays them implementing them. This will delay their preparations and hopefully take out some. And then the last phase, at 1600, when they have the strength, is going to be retake or takes, depending on the position, Ston, and hold it till the end. So these are the French op sheets. Now, no prepared defences are allowed before the game in any scenario. It doesn't, and it says that the campaign scenario says take the first scenario's instructions. So I'm taking that in the spirit of the rules. Say the French cannot have prepared defences unless they prepare one on in game. Now we saw that would probably take 100 years, so it probably won't happen, but they will start accruing turns for it if they can. Otherwise, so this is the start positions, and the first operation await is we have axis cushion withdraws from stern to position hasty defense position duvet 1. The 1-3 company here withdraws via axis we through cushion into duvet 1-2, and then the 2-3 company here withdraws via axis no to position duvet 2 with the remainder of their battalion there. So that's a size 1. We got 2 battalions. No, actually, I believe that's 3 battalions, so maybe that should be a size 2. But anyway, it doesn't matter because it's implemented. And the only real note of merit here is that these rows must be kept clear for 0600 hours when the recon group, the GRDI, comes on. So they will come on here, axis of advance here, phase line souffle. So obviously you've got units in hasty defense waiting here. Oh, and the failure instructions of these guys is the midst of these woods over here. So you can see that's quite tricky because they're near the baseline. They have to fail that way because of the considerations the Germans probably command here. And we're not going back into Ston at this point. So anyway, so the recon group will reach phase line souffle as they come on. Then they take axis mignon to objective fritte, and then on to objective café, with an alternate route of a phase of axis croissant, axis pollo to objective croissant, which is Ston, and then on to café. So these are light harassing attacks and spotter functions only. There are no reserves, and then the orders include return to the phase line by 1000 hours. So you can guess they either return via their axes of advance, or that they might be able to scoot around there. And the failure instruction is in Le Bissac here, the town here. So the armoured cars and the motorcyclists can, if they fail, they turn there. Otherwise, they're returning to the defensive line here. So that's the first attack. The second attack, Debole, is size 4 op sheet. That previous one was just size 0. I hope you can see this. Perhaps not so well in because I didn't put this into pen. Anyway, let's see. Essentially, what we have is well, it's a bit complicated actually. I'll zoom in. Maybe you can. That isn't maximum zoom. So here, we have phase line Ratatouille there, and I can't remember what the phase line there was. But anyway, this holds the 1st 67 Battalion here. That's their battalion line. Then the 1st and 2nd 205th. So these have recently come on. The 1st and 2nd 205th and the 3rd 205th are next to each other here. And the 4th BC, these were on board at start. 45 BC have recently come on. So these new ones come on at 0900 hours, and the time for this attack is 1100 hours. Then we have onion, courgette, and carotte, and they're going to move via axis of advance bouillon to objective Boeuf at this village here, and then continue on via axis risotto to objective Salata here, and then return via escargot down the bottom here to their starting points. Oh, yeah, sorry. So once obtaining this objective, they can either withdraw this way or escargot as an alternate. So that can be rolled for if that route looks blocked. And then there's another alternate objective. If both is nothing, then they can go up here to, I can't read that, but that's an alternate objective there. Now that's quite complicated, and it is, as far as I understand it, allowed by the rules for the command sheet. So we've essentially got it's all an attack, and it's kind of like a stepped attack. So there's that, and then the withdrawal is ordered because we have, if there's no local superiority, withdraw to start, or upon completion, withdraw to start. And you're allowed one alternate. So maybe actually I'm not allowed that alternate because I've got an alternate objective here. As I understand it, you can have one alternate per unit, and seeing as they're operating as one unit. So I'll have to check that. Maybe I'll take out escargot, which could, but no. If so, I'd scratch trifle because we need this alternate, because everybody needs to come. I mean, we need that. We definitely need them to come back here. So if they can't come back that way, they're going to need escargot as an alternate. So yeah, I think I'll scratch trifle. So the idea of this is just, like I said, it's like keeping the enemy off balance, and the idea is to not to have an all-out attack. Now I've got quite a few cementing instructions there, in that onion, so ratatouille assembles here under artillery cover. Courgette and carrot go forward with onion in reserve. If contact is made, then courgette passes carrot, or courgette pins whilst carrot flanks, and then they swap. So it's that basic, like move and fire maneuver. So we got onion in reserve, and courgette and carrot will pin, fire, move, fire, like that. So the first objective is beef and then salata. So it's basically like a swing movement to try and, because we don't know where the Germans are going to be. That was the real trouble as the French commander working out what to do, because we want this spoiling attack to keep them off balance. So we want to grab the Germans, but we don't know where they're going to be. So, then we might get that far, have a tussle with them, and then move back. Or it might mean there's no one in Bourg, and they might have decided to concentrate here, in which case we have a tussle and we could move back, because they might be, say, in Ston here. We're assuming they're going to be in Ston, which is why we're moving around it. Or if they've moved here since then we'll move back this way. And that's why I put that option up there, because I thought if when this kicks off, there's no Germans here, no Germans here, they might be around here, Ston here. So, but I think that the chances are, they're going to be around here. So we're going to hit someone and then fall back, essentially. So that's the second attack. The third French prepared implemented option before the game starts. Then at 1600 is the final attack. This is when the last reinforcements come on. They will come straight up Axis Claire to take objective Vino, which is Ston, obviously. Then you saw those kind of start forces from before. So we have one line of departure from the reinforcements, another line of departure from these, and a third line of departure here, which is the GRDI, the recon group, which are going to go via Uversol to attack Vino from the east, and then the bulk of the forces go via Uverlune to attack from the south. So hopefully we'll get lots of crossfires and so forth there. And there's even going to be Oh yeah, so the GRD are actually going to form a hasty defence in rows there, so they're essentially going to be in reserve. Yeah, so the LD3 takes part of these forces, and LD2 takes the rest of the forces there, and the GRDI are following Sol, but are going into defence there. So at the end of that operation, we'll move into the fifth phase of the French plan. So at 1800, hasty defence, stroke prepared defence. So I'm calling this op sheet 5/6 because depending on the situation, we might start accruing weighted terms to implement this as a prepared defence. I doubt it though. So it's probably going to be a hasty defence, size 7, as was this attack. You can see we can have vast size op sheets if it's prepared before the game, because otherwise they're going to take a lot longer to implement, and in one day not likely to. So then that's just the various battalion arrangements for some in reserve, some in defending in and around Ston. So and I didn't mention failure instructions for these guys are back at start points, and the reserves will come back here. Failure instructions for this hasty defences around Cantiers, the village there, because who knows, there may be time for a counterattack. But I think if the French attack here of codename Capture and the hasty defence codename Hold do not work, that's the end of it for the French. But we shall see, and this is going to be like, it's taken me, like I say, a week to work out all these op sheets in my gaming time, and it has been a delight to really analyse and think through. And these are my first, well, you saw some op sheets in my Leros game perhaps, but that was what, 2, 3, and they were only sort of for a couple of battalions. So this has been a joy to think about and prepare. We'll see how these two forces are going to merge. I just thought I'd finish with an aerial shot of the overall thing. And then a close in on Ston itself, showing the 4 BCC and elements of 205 RI defence. And here's the main German forces. There's 5 Stugs here, some 3 coming in on the attack. Unfortunately, they're not large enough for the infantry to platoons to ride on them, so it'll be fairly slowish attack there. 2 in reserve. We got if I can remember, we've got some 81mm infantry guns. Then we've got anti-tank guns here, and I believe these are the 105mm guns. And there's 81mm mortars there. They're not actually in traps, so they're going to move. They might start firing from the start. That's just infantry and machine guns. Infantry and machine guns. And then Panzer 1s, 2s and 3s. 19 of them all told. The blue thing indicating the reserves. Okay, so last thing I have to do is this is the game as is. Had these very nice company morale records, but in the updated rules 4.1, which I'm using, I think this came with the version 3 rules. So version 4.1, it's a battalion morale, so I don't need all these. I might have to download something from the gamer's support pages on Multiman Publishing's website. And here's the turn record chart and terrain effects, etc. One interesting thing, we've got air sorties rolls here. And one thing to note is there's none in the first hour, which is good for the withdraw and obviously move up to attack. And there's no weather table, so nothing mentioned in the game rules, so I'm assuming that the weather's normal throughout the whole day.